back to really this idea of how do we simply like raise the bar on average, okay? And that's really what I want to hone in and focus on is what does that look like? Why is that important? And how do we do that exactly? And so raising the bar on average, okay? I'm gonna just really bring you into some questions, really bring you into some thoughts, and getting you to kind of decide and really see why this is important and really how that's brought us to what we experience so many times wherever we go and wherever you're at in life, right? And so average, the reason we have to raise the bar on average is because average is a choice, right? And so a lot of times, there's things that we can see and that's not even average, that's below average, okay? And really average it's so dangerous because it really becomes this place and this mindset that as I break down more, right? But it starts to convince you that that's good enough, that you're okay enough, that things are fine, that you don't have any kind of ability to fix, to change, to better, to improve, to grow, whatever areas of life, including at a fundamental level, you personally as an individual. You can't do that, right? And so the average person will spend their entire life kind of going through the motions, avoiding the discomfort, avoiding the uncomfortable things. But we can't get into better. We can't get into what I should say, the best of what is actually obtainable and possible for us unless we actually get into eradicating and getting rid of what is just the average and ordinary that is just tolerated, right? A lot of times what you tolerate will eventually dominate more and more. And so as you tolerate average, that begins to dominate and allows you to just be another person blending in, convinced and really aware and thinking that, hey, what I carry, who I am, what I do doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect anybody else but me. It does affect you primarily, but it also affects others, right? And we see that in the world around us, other people's decisions, other people's thoughts, other people's actions, they affect each one of us. And we're reminded that just by going through life, seeing the news, right? Seeing things on social media. And so I wanted to bring it back to this, when I break down what I'm breaking down today, this core idea that big changes, they don't start by making big moves. And I think that's sometimes why we talk ourselves out of making, these changes or shifts that could be happening in our life and allowing us to level up and grow and experience a better life that we could possibly, and we're meant to be living. We think it's going to take these big changes. And so it doesn't start with the big moves. It actually starts when someone decides that the bare minimum isn't good enough anymore, right? It isn't enough anymore. Bare minimum, what was tolerated before, what was okay before. I'm going to give you some examples of where we can visit that mentally and really look into. But it doesn't happen with these big extravagant moves, right? It doesn't have to. It doesn't normally take place like that. It actually happens when you start to make a decision that the bare minimum, it isn't enough anymore. And so I want to call out the default. Well, one of the things that I take into a lot of schools is the A16 Basics. And basically the A16 Basics is a 16 step process and really getting us out of the default, what I would call the average mindset, and into a designed mindset, right? So going from default into design, because when you get out of default mode, default way of thinking, average way of thinking, you move into an allergic to average, a designed way, an intentional way of thinking. You actually, your life becomes a byproduct of that way of thinking. You can design the way that you live, right? Because you're more intentional, you're more aware, and you're deciding on how you want to show up, the kind of person you're going to be, so on and so forth. So most of us didn't, we didn't choose our standards. You didn't choose your standards, but in fact, you inherited those standards, right? And so your upbringing, I talk a lot about that, how much that has an impact and an influence on us and who we are. And that really brings us into just kind of where we start out in life. A lot of times I would say by the time you're 16, 17, especially 18, you're kind of in default mode. What you inherited those standards, and you a lot of times what we see is those were brought into your life, and you brought those on as a part of your life, right? Those standards, because we learn those by watching kind of what is normal, right? What we see, how people show up at work, how people show up at school, if you're still in school, right? How your families are in general, how families communicate, how your family communicated growing up, demonstrating love or lack of, frustration, another example could be how effort is given. So average is usually just, again, what was demonstrated, but it's not actually what's possible. Okay, so what is possible is a decision, and really something that we have to begin to tap into, and seeing that, hey, just because this is what I saw, this is what was demonstrated to me, this is what was expected, sometimes those are great, right? And we have to continue those standards, holding those even when we don't want to, pushing yourself, right? So maybe in your upbringing you had that. Most of us, most people, even with the great examples of things that were demonstrated and taught to us, we have to upgrade and update those things. And so much of that, we are allowing ourselves to then dream and dare to see what is actually possible, what is actually obtainable. And so, look, no matter where you are, no matter how old you are, okay, what you're trying to figure out in life, where you're at in getting better, growing to be better, and really taking things and whatever it looks like to the next level, to the more that's available, right? You don't have to change the whole world. You don't have to change everything, but you can change the very world that you live in, that you experience, right? That you are a part of in your day-to-day life, in your moment by moment life, by just finding ways to raise the bar on where average exists for you in your life, okay? And so this happens first on a independent, right? A personal level for you, finding ways to upgrade and to raise the bar for yourself personally. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute, but so many of your habits and so many of the things that we allow and we sometimes just tolerate, or we just allow to just kind of go and be a part of what we do and how we are. Sometimes it's our routine, right? Sometimes it's our diet. And it could be as simple as, I know I should be taking vitamins. I know I should be putting better things into my body. That's not even to speak on, right? Like the overarching theme of food and what you eat and all that. But I mean, drinking more water, the changes, it's a small thing. It can seem like such a small thing, but experiencing what that can do for you. I think so many times the average person will wait. We typically want to wait till there's some type of health issue when we get later in life, and we then need a doctor to prescribe medicine and tell us that we have to start taking this, instead of being proactive, instead of keeping your body charged and fueled with zinc and magnesium and vitamin B and D and C. Like it's these little things, right? It's small hinges that open big doors. That is also true in the schools and the workplaces that we're a part of, and in our friends groups and our families, right? And so these small changes, these small hinges change big dramatic things that we would hope to, that we have the intention to, that we would like to. This is actually a more practical way for us to do that. And so the way that I've seen this for so many times, when I look back at scenarios and things that I've wanted to change or things that I disagreed with, again, maybe that's in school, maybe that's on social media, maybe that's in a workplace. These systems and these ways, these cycles don't change because of a speech, right? They don't change because of a good idea or because we have the concept of doing something different. The change happens because somebody does slightly a little bit more than what's expected. than what has been done before, right? And so I want you to remember that. I want you to come back to that and really think on, it's not some, stars align, some dramatic, you get the permission, God comes down and grants it, to you to, hey, it's actually you just finding a way to slightly do a little bit more than what's expected, or maybe than what has been demonstrated before. And so there's two core points I want to really just focus on for the remainder of the talk, okay? And so, average is the bare minimum, and it's optional. It's an option that we get with our free willed mind. We have the ability to choose: are we going to take the average approach? Sometimes people take the below average approach, right? Which I'm not even going to talk about. But how do we get past that? Because what does average look like? The average, mindset goes into only really just doing kind of what's required. That's all I was, required to do in any space. Again, in school, this could be at home, this could be in a relationship, this could be at a workplace, right? Showing up when it's convenient, and that's it. Just when it's convenient for you, whenever it works out for you, and that's it. That's how average shows up, right? Saying, oh, that's just how it is. That's just what it is. Right? That's an average approach. That's an average thought. Waiting for somebody else to care more, right? You don't care enough. You want to maybe just be nice, just be liked, right? So waiting for somebody else to actually care and actually decide to do something differently. But that doesn't change anything, right? And that's why we can see continuous cycles exist in workplaces, in our society, in our community, in our homes, in our relationships. Because average just exists. It just takes and continues to allow what has been to continue to be. And so I want you to also hear me on this, right? Average is, when allergic to average, when I talk about average it's not evil. It's not the worst place to be, okay? I just want you to hear me say that. But average is, the reason why it's not the best, and it's more than what people often think about when they think about just being average and being okay with it. It's because average it's just unintentional, right? It's allowing yourself to not decide or to declare, this is what I'm going to do, this is who I'm going to be, not really making a decision. And we have so many people that want to change the world, or change their circumstances, or change maybe their workplace, or change their families, or just see the world in a different place, but they're not even really willing, or at all, I should say, not even really, they're not willing to actually be intentional about changing what can be changed, changing what should be changed in their own life. And so raising the bar on, where you're at, on what you could be, what you could do. It's not I'm not bringing you some huge, crazy, something that people would see happening in 10 years. No, this is just something that we can do. We should be doing. We have the responsibility of doing daily. And raising the bar, and on average, it doesn't mean being perfect, okay? It's you're more, I would say like this, you're actually being intentional with progression, right? So being intentional, again, that word, right? Because so many people, it was unintentional, or I didn't mean to, or they look back at a season or maybe their life, and I didn't intend for it to be this way. Well, that's a choice, right? But to grow in your awareness is to grow in intention, to be more intentional, to do things on purpose, right? To actually do things deliberately, right? With progression. And progression is that idea of moving constantly forward, or in a state of advancement, bettering yourself, all right? So I would always say, and this is probably going to have to be a t-shirt we drop with Allergic to Average. You should always be reminded that it's progression over perfection. And the average person, They want to be perfect, right? They think they talk themselves out of not doing, not trying, not raising the bar on average, or bettering what could be bettered by saying, oh, well, it's not perfect, or I'm not perfect at that, or I don't know how to do that. And it's more important for us to be progressive people, and that's what it looks like daily as we progress, as we're on a progression, being intentional, doing things deliberately on purpose in a progression, right? Moving in a state forward towards something that betters things, right? And so instead of asking, how can I get away with just the bare minimum, or waiting for somebody else to care, or showing up when it's convenient, some of these examples I just gave you, a better question, the allergic to average. So you should ask yourself, like, what do people usually skip? Okay, maybe that, again, this could be in a relationship, this could be in your workplace, this could be in your school, this could be in your family, this could be you doing your chores. Like, typically, hey, what do people usually skip when they do this, whatever this is, right? What do people say in this area, okay, of any example? What do people say doesn't matter, right? This is how you start to grow in your awareness, your intention, right? Of being somebody that shows up, that looks different, and people notice, right? Where do people typically, in this area, whatever that is, where do people usually give the least amount of effort, right? And so as you do that, this actually allows you to move in your progression with intention to what looks like and feels like small changes, actually to creating big and more sustainable changes and progressions in your life. And so the smallest places is really where standards are actually built. It's the small places. It's asking these questions that I just asked is really what allows you to create new standards of what's expected and what is possible. And that's where the actual, intention of building something and actually changing things actually happens. And so remember this, okay? Small things are actually what changes big systems. And so that system, that word big system, that could be referred to in so many different areas. Again, I want this is universal across different areas, or I should say all areas of our life. And I continue to look back at how this plays out. And again, for me personally, relationships, whether that, be with my wife, whether that be my daughters or my friends, whether that be my family in any capacity, right? Other leaders, other mentors, just people that are what look like strangers or feel like strangers at one time, right? So things continue to change and elevate as you look, and don't like overlook. Don't think they're not important. Don't think that they don't have any kind of actual weight or truth to changing things. It's those small things that actually change big systems in our life and the systems around us. And so examples of that, what could that look like? Like, again, these little things. It's actually, and some of us are better at it than others. I don't know where you're at, but actually listening to somebody when they talk. And that's something that even, I, for a long time, wasn't good at. I mean, and this now has been years ago, but it takes, again, I'm really hammering in that word, intentionality. It really takes you being intentional, and this is what it looks like. I'll give you an example in just a bit, but really, like, pushing yourself mentally as somebody is speaking, you're in a conversation, whoever this may be, it could be a stranger, giving them, like some eyes, looking in their eyes, looking at like your body language, and actually instead of allowing your mind to go on and kind of zoom out into like, oh, what am I going to do later? Or they said this and it made me think this, or what is my next response going to be? That's always a big one. Or what should I say? Like you start to push yourself into a way that allows you to be present. You're really there, right? You're actually listening. You're not worried about what you're going to say. Like, these are those small things that change really big things as you start to really hone those things in and really build upon them, right? Another example would be like Being on time whenever it maybe is something that is not something that people are typically on time to. Sometimes that's a workplace for some people, right? But pushing yourself, and then this is, I mean, I haven't mastered it, and there's times where it may not be a set in stone thing, but I had a commitment or an agreement, and I still have to push myself to be on time. It's these little things, right? Doing one extra step of work, another example, right? Whatever that looks like in your workplace, maybe this is your job description, this is what's expected, but more for you. Do you know what happens when you push yourself to go one extra step? A lot of times this could be related in the gym. Maybe this is something I challenge myself with. I say, hey, I'm doing 3 sets of 5, 3 sets of 8, right? But then in that last set, that last rep on my 8, I say, let's just do one more. There's a mental capacity. There's mental activity that happens when you start to push yourself to just do one more, go one step above, go one step beyond, right? Another example, encouraging someone instead of just staying quiet. It takes effort. It takes you being intentional. Sometimes that's through a text. Sometimes that's a phone call, right? It doesn't feel convenient. You don't have to. Simple to do, simple not to do. But that's the small things I'm trying to give you, and I'm trying to really highlight. Another example would just, again, I talked a while ago about like body language. It's being aware of your presence. It's being aware of your energy. It's being aware of your tone. It's being aware of your facial expressions, right? And like these are little things, and some people, they don't even become intentional about how that's impacting or affecting, others or their conversation or how other people are perceiving or hearing them. But these are those small things that most people don't think is important, and they really are. They really are. And so one of the truths I wanted to bring you back to and really understanding is this idea that culture isn't created by, big moments or, somebody great doing it, right? But it's created by what is repeated, right, in these small ways. Another way of saying that is, culture is created by really what we repeat and what we keep repeating in the smallest of ways. So those small things that you allow yourself to continue to demonstrate and you continue to be intentional about is actually what creates a different culture, a different experience in your home, in your day, in your workplace, and not, again, just for you, but for the others around you. And so when we're growing in this awareness, what does this look like? Well, awareness, it changes habits. The more you're aware about doing something, the more you grow in your awareness, in your oneness, okay? This relationship of you, why you react the way you do, why you respond, what triggers you, what angers you, what excites you. It's nobody else's job. It's nobody else's responsibility to become aware of who you are, right? Now, naturally, we have people that will do that, good people around us, our spouse, our boyfriend, our girlfriend, our parents, but to really elevate that and to grow in the A to A mindset and the better version of you and the more of you, awareness, your awareness of your oneness of who you are, that's what changes your habits. And your habits start to change your standards, what you expect, what is good. Going from okay to good, going from good to great, going from great to impeccable, going to, excellent. And it's those standards that change our environment, that change the culture around us, where we show up, where we go to work, right? Our community and our experience. And so this happens first for us on a solo, independent level, you personally, but others get to experience that. Our world gets treated and really gets upgraded the more that you treat and you upgrade yourself. And so one of these things I wanted you to hear, okay, I'll probably repeat this twice, but going back to what, and I say going back because this is what I say that because I have to constantly go back to this. And, small things They don't feel powerful. They don't feel that big, that important, but they're the only things that last, right? It's in the small that we find the big. It's in the small that unlocks the big. And so small things don't feel powerful. They don't feel often, sometimes even meaningful, but they're the only thing that will truly last and make a difference. Okay. And so I want to kind of give you a strategy in that with some questions you can ask yourself that allow you to strategically wrap your mindset around showing up differently, right? Being more intentional with being in a progression and constantly growing in who you are and where you're at. And so, here's 3 questions I wanted to give you to kind of live by. One, what is in any area of your life, in any moment, what is the average here? What's the bare minimum? What's expected? Okay. And on some days, here's the truth. Average is, probably where you're at, what you can do. That's maybe the best you can give. But 80% of the time, 90% of the time, we have more, and we can give that more by being intentional and by allowing ourselves to raise our standards, raising the bar on average. So go back to this question. What does average look like here? What's the average here? What's the bare minimum? Okay, that's the first question we can ask ourselves and really live by at times in any moment, in any area. The next one would be, what is one step above that? Okay, what is that one more thing? What is that slightly different? Maybe others, again, most times they won't notice, but for you, what is that one thing? What is that one more rep? What is that one more step? What is that one more beyond what is expected that you could do in that moment on that day, right? And then again, in that, when you ask those 2 questions, what does average look like here, right? What's the average here? The second one, again, being, hey, what is one step beyond that? And then the third question would be, okay, how can I do that in this moment? How can I do that today? And giving yourself, by making a decision, again, let's not overthink it, but even in the smallest ways, I'm bringing it back to small because that's where we start. And that's really what lasts, again, right? That's what actually gets us into sustainable change. How do I do that? Giving yourself that mental homework. Okay, how can I do that today? Or how can I do that in 5 minutes? How can I do that before I'm done with this, right? So what does average look like here? What is one step? What is one thing beyond that? And how can I do that right now? How can I do that today, right? So bringing us back to that, and that's really a strategy. And so, look, you don't need permission. And maybe if you did, I'm giving you the permission right now. It's me, Matt Lee, giving you the permission you need to raise the bar on average, right? Raise the bar on what's been expected or what's been demonstrated for so long that just it works, it gets by, it's cool, it's okay. You don't need permission, but even if you did, I'm giving you that permission, right? And I'm giving you kind of that challenge of go and raise the bar, right? So you don't need permission, even though you just got it. What you need, again, is what I've been bringing us back to is intention. Bringing it back to doing and operating from a mental state and awareness that's doing things on purpose, doing and moving and showing up with action deliberately, right? And so, as I kind of come to a close and kind of bring it back on these things, allergic to average, right? As I've been talking, look, so often I got to hear, I hear the question, and I've also seen people that have found allergic to average and maybe the way that they talk about it, or maybe their thoughts about it, or, does that mean allergic to average, like you're better than others, you're better than the average? Allergic to average isn't about being better than anybody else. It's not about being better than people in general, all right? But what it is it's about being better for people. Oh, and I gotta bring that in again. Allergic to average, all right? Just if you ever wondered, or maybe you ever share allergic to average, and this has been a question, like I said, that's popped up a lot before. Allergic to average isn't about being better than people. It's not about being better than anybody else. It's about being better for people, okay? It's about being better for yourself. And as you do that, as you upgrade and as you continue to elevate and you continue to level up and you continue to carry and walk out that desire for more, you first and foremost get the benefits of that. And you walk into a fuller, more sustained, and actual greater potential of what life is and what it was meant for, and the experience of that. But although that is for you, right? That is something that you get, and that is something that we all need on an individual, personal level that we have to decide and really dictate for ourselves. The byproduct of that is you're making the world a better place. The better you are, the better it is for others, right? And so that's why we talk about so many of the things that we do in Allergic to Average, right? The 8A core 4 being really those core 4 to love, to create, to grind, and to honor is really one of those things that is a constant reminder of the important things that we have to continue to do. Because again, we're not here to be better than anybody else. We're not here to compete against other people, to judge them, to criticize them, right? We're here to be better for people. And the only way we can be better for people, again, is by being better for ourselves, right? And being, in the smallest ways, being more intentional about progressing and staying on that path. And so one of the things I wanted to just remind us is, or remind you of in this live is, families and communities and different things, they don't change by just, again, good ideas, or hey, maybe one day somebody could, or I'm not, and it happens whenever one person shifts, when one person becomes the catalyst of change, when one person starts to start to do things differently, with intention, with purpose, deliberately, making decisions in the small ways, like I've been talking about. Workplaces shift when one person cares a little bit more, right? Your community, it changes, it rises when standards rise. And this all happens by you as an individual. Things change around you when things change within you. And so it has to come back to, again, the small that unlocks the big. It's these small decisions, it's these small choices that we begin to upgrade and we begin to change. And that's what changes families. That's what changes workplaces. That's what changes communities. That's what changes the world around us. And so one of the last things, as I kind of just bring it to an end and close it all up, is, if you raise the bar in small ways, okay? So I'm kind of just wanting to show you an overview of what this looks like. If you start to change and raise the bar on average, and in the small ways long enough, average won't survive around you, okay? You do that long enough, you continue to upgrade and push yourself in small ways, raising the bar on average. You create a culture and a standard where average won't survive. It won't be sustained around you. Right? It's eliminated more and more. It's eradicated, and it continues to be destroyed the more that you take on and you decide that the small things are important. And so this week, here's your challenge, if you would. Pick one thing, right? Just one thing. It could be in any area, whether it's your fitness, your diet, your relationships, your routines, your workplace, your body language. The list goes on. Pick one. Pick one thing and raise the bar just a little bit, okay? Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. A lot of us, I would say most of us, we already know what could and what we should and what needs to be done before anybody tells us, before we have to overthink it, before we have to be told. So just pick one area, raise the bar just a little bit, and my promise to you, okay, I can guarantee you that when you do that, you're going to watch the change start to happen over time. Give it time, right? Because love is patient. And as you continue to watch the change, that becomes evidence to you that these small changes do unlock big things, right? Again, small hinges open big doors. And so the small hinges that I'm talking about and referring to are these little things. And so Don't overlook them. Don't run from them. Don't, abandon them. Lean into them. Grow in those. And more, you'll see the changes that start to become unlocked in big ways as you take on the small, right? So let that be a reminder, a mental reminder for you. And man, I hope that brings some just insight, some clarity for you. I hope that encourages you. And where you're at today, man, just continue to grow. Challenge yourself as an individual to just raise the bar, to raise the standards, to going a little bit above, a little bit beyond. And as you continue to do that, as you continue to grow in that, it unlocks your life more and more in a big way. People notice the difference, people experience the difference, and people are hungry for that difference. And so that's you if you're watching this. And so I thank you for your time. I thank you for watching this. Man, again, I always welcome feedback, comments, love, questions, anything like that. Share this with somebody who could really use this message and this mental reminder. And another reminder for you, our classic tees are up and on our website. Here's one of the newest ones we brought into the classic tee collection, our royal blue. So there's 6 other options, this being a 7th of the classic tee. Our Harmonia oversized tees, we got 4 options of those in colors. So go check those out. And again, as always, it's me, your boy Matt Lee. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I honor you, and I welcome you into this place of being the difference, because you are different. Again, you're not average. You were never created to just be ordinary. As you continue to tap into the brilliance, the beauty, and the bigness of you, you'll continue to walk in being extraordinary. So I'll see you on the next one. I love you guys. I'm out. Peace.